All right, so let's get started, ladies and gentlemen. Cheryl, once again, thank you so much for having me speak to your group
Thank you.
today. It really is an honor. I absolutely love what I do. As Cheryl said, I'm the owner and founder of Enspire Dental Opportunities, which is a dental recruiting agency, and we service Canada-wide. So basically, we help associate dentists, we help hygienists, we help assistants, we help receptionists, any dental professional, we help them find permanent and temp roles across Canada. So, so that's pretty much what we do. But what I love and what my team loves to do is really make those introductions and those connections with people to help them find a career that best suits them. And, you know, anybody can go out and get a job, but to find something that really is a fit and to be able to help somebody do that, it really, really is rewarding. So to that end, another thing that we like to do is we do a lot of webinars and lunch and learns and, you know, educating dental professionals on the softer skills of things. I mean, obviously I wouldn't be able to teach you clinical, but for us, teaching about the soft skills of working and interacting, and that's kind of what we're gonna do today. So today's topic is going to be resume writing tips that help you to stand out. And we'll be, again, it'll be about an hour session. We'll have some Q&A at the end. But pretty much the theme is going to be that. But some of the topics that we're going to cover, I'm going to first start off by sharing with you who Enspire is, what we do, and introduce you to our team. Then I'm going to get into resume writing tips. And as I mentioned before, I'll give you guys each, I'll send Cheryl a PDF, a document that has all the tips on there. So you don't have to go ahead and you know, take all the notes. You can if you wish. If you learn better that way, that's totally fine. And then I'm going to get in, I'm going to briefly touch on LinkedIn and social media and how the two are kind of connected and why it's important to have a professional presence. And then I'm going to finish off with professional communication. So sounds like a lot. We're going to kind of go through each and every one of them. But of course, at the very end, if you have any questions, perhaps write down the questions that you have going through the this webinar. And then at the end, we'll open it up. And then that way you can remember if you jotted something down. So first, I always like to introduce my team because I really, really, really believe in teamwork. And I love sayings, you know, teamwork makes the dream work. It really, really is true. And just like you know, you guys are a part of a team, your class is your team, you've got your, you know, your teachers at kind of the head of the team. And I really think that leadership stems from the top down. And so what does that mean? Leadership is the ability to be able to really inspire people and empower others to stand in their own greatness. And that's one of the things that I love to do with my team, but also all of the people that join our network or people that we help further their careers as well. So when I'm attracting people on my Enspire Dental team, I want to make sure that they have the same vision, that they have the same positive attitude, that they have the same kind of goals that I have, so that we're all moving in the same direction. So this is our team. We've got a, you know, we span across Canada, and we're able to do that because of virtual technology. So we use Zoom a lot of what we do, a lot of our interviews that we do first over the phone, and then obviously we can't always do in person. So we'll do Zoom video conferencing. So exactly what we're doing today. So it's great that you guys are doing this because you're getting exposed to it and you're getting the experience with it. And this really is the way things are going. And a lot of times, especially if you're relocating, a lot of the clinics or the office, the hiring managers will do the same as well. So I'm going to go over briefly our mission and our values. And the reason I'm doing that is not because I want to sell you my company, but I want you guys to think about yourselves and what your mission is in life. And it may sound a little bit vast and a little bit too much, like, why do I need to know that? But I want you to start thinking about your mission and your core values. Because if you can understand what your core values are and what's important to you right now, you can align yourself with the right people in your life that are going to help take you to where you want to go. So if you can really clearly define what it is that you're looking for, you're going to be able to get what you want much quicker, and you're going to be able to get what you want if you can define what that is. So for us, we really want to be the Canada's top leading recruitment and talent agency. So we want to be known as the best talent agency across Canada. And to do that, we focus on relationships, and focus on our core values. So we want to be Canada's go-to agency for dental professionals to either begin or further their career. So we help everybody. So we help, like I said, all dental professionals, we help students, and we also help dental professionals that have perhaps been in their careers for 10, 20 years and want to make a change. We help them as well. So our mission is twofold. Now, our core values, these are very, very important. And like I said, I always share this in my presentations because I wish that when I was younger, that I had somebody sit me down, or at least I had somebody kind of guide and mentor me on what's important to you. And if you can align those values, and when you meet somebody, you'll be able to pick out people. Like, when you meet somebody and you just click, you say, like, when I met Cheryl, for example, it's like, oh, you know what, there's something about her that I really like her. You walk away from a conversation, it's like, oh, you know what? She just has the same kind of values as me. And you just know that almost instinctively. And the same is true when you feel the opposite about somebody. You meet somebody, could be anywhere. It could be at school, it could be at a job, it could be at Starbucks, it could be at a club, wherever you are, and you walk away and you go, I didn't really like that person. Well, chances are that they probably didn't align with your values. So kind of define what it is that is important to you. And if you're not sure what your values are, next time somebody triggers you in a negative way, focus on what that negative is, and think of what the opposite is. And the opposite is probably what your value is going to be. So for example, for us, our core values, teamwork. For me, teamwork, I truly believe teamwork makes the dream work. There's a saying that says, alone you can go fast, but together you can go far. So if you can work collaboratively with a group of people, you are going to go so far in life, it's unbelievable. And if you have that value and then you meet somebody who doesn't really have that value, they're probably going to rub you in the wrong way. But having that knowledge and that awareness is going to allow you to accept them better. So energize. We're looking for people who are energetic. When I have people on my Enspire team, if you talk to my other recruiters, they're probably similar to me in that we're energetic, we're positive. We want to create that energy. And I'll tell you right now that when people are hiring managers and dentists, they're looking for energetic people. And so if you can portray that on your resume, and we'll talk more about that, and also in the interview, you will stand out always above everybody else who doesn't have that energy or that enthusiasm. So really important to really figure out, if you're not that high energy, well, then maybe you're not going to partner with somebody who is. Active ownership. Another thing that we like to do is I like to empower my team. Everybody has greatness in them. So figure out what your greatness is and work on that. For me, my team, I can't be great at everything. So I've got a lady on my team. She's a dental hygienist. She's now recruiting for me. Well, I was never a dental hygienist. I actually am very new to the dental industry. So I've got a dental hygienist. I've got an assistant on my team. I've got an operations manager, skills that I don't necessarily have. But if I can pull them together and work collaboratively with people, then together we're going to go further. So I like to empower others to step into their greatness. And when people can do that, they will always shine brighter. Integrity, of course, with our company, we bring quality and honesty. If you can live your life with honesty and quality in anything that you do, no matter whether somebody is looking or not, think about this. How you do anything is how you do everything. So if you can take that motto in your life, you will create habits now that will it'll flood over into everything that you do. And whether you think somebody is watching or not, trust me, people are watching. So work with integrity and honesty. and it will just, you'll go so much further in your workspace. Cheryl and I were talking earlier about, before the recording, that the dental space is very large and vast, but it's also small, right? So, you never want to burn any bridges. You always want to act with integrity, because you never ever know where you're going to end up down the road. Another one of our core values is win-win. We strive for a successful, positive outcome on both ends. So, when we're working, I want to make sure, of course, we want it to be a win for us, but if it's not a win for the candidate, or if it's not a win for the dental office who's looking for somebody, for example, then we really haven't won, have we? We want to make sure that the person that we're, that we're helping out to find a dental hygienist, for example, is happy. They're happy with the fit, and the hygienist is happy with it as well. Because if there isn't that synergy or fit, then none of us have won. So if we can look at a situation where, I walk away happy, the candidate walks away happy, and the office walks away happy, then that's a win-win situation. And again, that will outshine. You end up getting referrals, and people will speak of you in a very, very, very positive manner. And then lastly, make it fun. So for us, I want to have fun. I mean, we work a lot, as a hygienist or working in a dental office, you're going to be working long hours. You're going to be working with sometimes stressful situations. You're going to be working with a close-knit group. And if you can't have fun, at the end of the day, what's the point, right? Of course, we want to be professional. We want to, do our best from a professional standpoint, but there's nothing wrong with having fun as well. So we want to make sure that we inject a little bit of that into everything that we do as well. So these are just core values that we have. And I really want you guys to think about what's important to you and when you're looking for a job, and where you want to work and where you want to really live, because we spend so much time at work. So these are things that are important to us. All right. So what do you think about this? So resumes don't get jobs. Well, what do you mean by that? Resumes don't get jobs. People do. So at the end of the day, your resume absolutely is important, right? So you want to make sure that everything is on there. You've got all the, the right things, and it highlights you in the perfect way, but it's highlighting you. So when you go for that interview, you're going to shine. So make sure that your resume reflects you. It's not all just about rudimentary things. I want you to think about the resume as being your smile, your business card. This is the best part of you. So you want to keep the humanistic element and see how you can help it to shine on the resume. So we've come up with the 4 C's of resume writing. So we've got clarity, consistency, compelling, and customization. So it's really important that when you're writing a resume, or if you're going back and you're editing your resume, you want to make sure that it's clear, consistent, compelling, and is customized to you. So imagine if you're applying for a job, and the hiring manager or the HR manager or the dentist or whoever is going over the resumes, they're seeing dozens, and they've probably seen hundreds of resumes. I know myself and my team, we've seen hundreds and hundreds of resumes. So what is it about your resume that's going to make me or our recruiters pick it up and say, ooh, okay, and pause on it? Because the reality is you have 6 seconds, and there's many, many studies out there that indicate it takes about 6 seconds for somebody for you to make an impression on your resume. 6 seconds, that's all you have, all right? So what does this mean? What is a clear resume? Well, you want to have clear objectives. You want to include a cover letter and write your resume tailored to the job posting. I see a little error there. You don't want to do that. You want to have somebody proofread this. So honestly, guys, include a cover letter if you can. I highly recommend that. Even if, I'll be honest with you, I don't always read the cover letter, but somebody who has taken the time to do that, I'll skim over it and I'll see whether it's generic or I'll see whether it's actually tailored to the job posting, because I want to know how bad do they want the job? Have they really even looked at the job posting? So if you look at the job posting, and when I say tailor your resume to the job posting, I mean, make sure that you're seeing what the requirements are, and use those keywords in the job posting in your resume. Inject some of those words or those qualifications, provided that you have them, and put them into your resume. Make sure that they're tailored there. Now, one of the things that I will say is, don't have an objective on your resume. Some people do this where they say, objective, I'm looking to be, full-time dental hygienist, blah, blah, blah. It's not about what you want. You're sharing your skills. We know that that's what you're looking for. So no need to put and waste space on the resume. No need to put what your objective is. You can put that in the cover letter and kind of talk a little bit more about that in there. So what is a consistent resume? Bold headers, first and last name, and contact information on every page. Okay, so make sure that everything is very clear, very consistent. Have bold in your headers. When first and last name, no need to have all these, extra credentials at the end of your name and all that. Make sure that you don't want that to take away from who you are. Because really what I'm looking at when I'm looking at a resume, I see, dental hygienist or whatever the profession is, and then your name. And you want that name to stick. So make sure that that is clear, and your contact information is on every page. And when I say every page, and I'll get into this, but you don't really want it more than 2 pages. Anything after the second page, I know I don't even read, because then at that point, I feel like my time isn't being respected. So 2 pages is more than enough. If you can get on 1 page, great. Ensure page alignment, use of font style, and you make sure that your font is identical on every page. And then of course, compelling. What makes a compelling resume? So as I mentioned before, this is your time to shine. You want to emphasize your experience, your qualifications, and be sure to include any awards, maybe community service hours, placements, practicums that you've completed as well. This is all important, especially if you don't really have a long job history. Put in any volunteer or community service hours and placements that you've done, because that's going to show a little bit more of what you've done and what your experience is. And finally, customize. What's a customized resume? So know the position and company that you're applying for, and tailor your experience and strengths specifically to that job. Now, so many times I'll get resumes, and you can tell that it's generic and it's not really tailored to the position. You can tell that the applicant hasn't really read what the job is that they're applying for. Maybe it's just a part-time job and you're looking for a full-time, or maybe they haven't looked at where the location is, and your location is 3 hours away. So make sure that you're looking at the actual job posting clearly, so that you're not wasting your time and you're not wasting the recruiter's time as well. So I'm going to get into a few more details here on the do's and don'ts of resume writing. And again, I have all of this in a PDF form, and I'll be sharing this with Cheryl, and she can share it with you guys as well. So we just talked about know the positioning company that you're applying for. You want to know a little bit, if you really want to work for a company as well, do a little bit of research. Most dental offices, most of them have an online presence, not all of them. But I am finding that more and more you're finding that they're going online, and you can research a little bit. If you put a little bit of time into researching about the company and tailoring your resume to that, especially if you get to the interview, people find that so impressive. The hiring manager or the dentist find it so impressive because you've taken the time to do that and it's actually meaningful to you. I always recommend creating a professional email address. So not having something like, I've seen one where it's like daisyboo12@hotmail.com, right? That's, it's not professional. If anything, at least have your name, Melissa Calway@gmail.com. If you don't have one with an extension of your school, then just go create one. It's free. you know, again, how you do anything is how you do everything. So if you're positioning yourself in a positive, professional way, then the hiring manager or the dentist is going to project that you're going to be that way in work as well. But if they see an email address that's kind of, you know, not as professional, then they're going to assume that you're not as professional. It may or may not be true, but take a moment, create a professional email address. Highly recommend doing that. First impressions are always, you know, they're impressive, or they can be the opposite. Update your contact information as well. So make sure if you've moved or if anything's changed, always update that so that we can reach out to you and we can find you. Very, very important there as well. Font size, talked about that a little bit earlier. Set your font size to 10 to 12 points. You don't want it any smaller than that because hard to read. You don't want it any bigger than that because then it looks like you're just filling up the page. So 10 to 12 points, good enough. Now, I always recommend using reverse chronological order. So you want to do most recent and work your way back. Now, most of you, I would imagine, don't have work experience, or if you do, it may not be in the hygiene field. I'm not sure. I'm going to assume, because you all seem quite young, that you don't have much work experience. So you're going to go and do your education. So you're obviously going to put your most recent education and then work backwards as well. Make sure that you align your content to the left and make it skimmable. So remember that I mentioned that it takes about 6 seconds for you to make an impression with your resume. This is why it's really, really important to have it clear. Make sure the alignment is, I like left alignment. Make sure that it's skimmable, because when a recruiter or a hiring manager, a dentist is looking at your resume, we don't read resumes, and you'll find this if you pay attention. If you look at a resume, you don't typically read a resume like you would read a book from left to right and then top to bottom. The sweet spot of the resume is actually the top middle. So you want to have like the meat of your resume, that top middle spot. Honestly, it's so important. When I'm looking at a resume, I look quickly, I'll see the name, I'll see, you know, dental hygienist, and then whatever is in that middle spot is what's going to stick out the most. And then I do a circular around, and you like a circular motion and skim around it. So I want to see that you have the qualifications or the school that that you have the schooling. And if you have work experience, you want that closer to the top as well. So make strategic use of bold caps and italics. Again, you want to make it consistent and have that just in your headings. Choose an attractive and readable font. I recommend Verdana, Arial, and Helvetica. Say that 10 times. I'm not even sure if I'm saying that right, but you guys get the gist. So those would be my recommendations. Only add jobs that you've had in the past 10 to 15 years. Now, again, most of you probably won't have that extensive job experience. That's fine. But make sure that you're just adding what's relevant for you. Also, let's see here. Give your sections simple subheadings. Again, you don't want to make it too wordy. You want it to be simple. You want it to be clean. You want it to be neat. So you'll have resume summary, experience, education, skills. You can bold those, make sure they're all in clear, legible fonts as well. So some other tips. So of course, consider using a professional design template. Now, there's so many out there. You can go online. Google's great. Google's great for all of us. Even being a mom, if I don't have answers, I go on Google and I ask, and then I pretend that I'm super smart to my kids, right? We can go on to Google for anything. You can go on to Word and create a resume, use that template there, and then customize to your liking. So I would recommend using a professional design template there. There's so many out there. And then include URLs to social media profiles, personal websites, and your blog, if you have them and if they're applicable. And I'll get into this after these tips, but make sure that if you do that, you clean it up. So if you have profiles on your Facebook or your LinkedIn or your Instagram or your TikTok or whatever social media sites that you're on, the recruiter or the hiring manager, more times than not, especially now, they're looking at your social media, and it's so easy to find. So if you have URLs or if you have other social media profiles, you can add them provided that they're professional. And if they're not professional, even if you don't provide them, you want to clean them up, and we'll get into that shortly. All right, so as I mentioned before, as a student, your educational background is your strongest selling point. So that's why in this case, you can put the education section first in chronological order, because I want to know, recruiters want to know, dentists want to know, where are you now? People want to know, who are you and where are you now, right? So put that down first. Lose the phrase references available on request. I see this so often. Make it easy for people that if they really like you and they really want to hire you, that you have that available. I recommend having a couple references and just putting them on there, or don't even put it on there. One or the other. Make sure that you've created margins and balance your text in white space. We've talked about that before. Remember, when people look at your resume, you've got 6 seconds. They're looking right at the middle, top middle. That's the most important. And then they do a quick skim around there. That's why you want to have it balanced. Another thing, name your files properly. So for example, you might want to put something like John Smith resume. I've seen where I get resumes in PDF form and, you know, all these weird funky names. Or make sure that if I am looking at dozens and dozens, if not hundreds of resumes, I can quickly pull your resume. And if I want to save it to a file, it has your name in it. So I don't have to go through, add your name. Make sure this just creates your image of being professional as well. Again, how you do anything is how you do everything. So just take a moment, make sure that you're naming your files properly, because the person that's opening that file is going to see that when they're opening it up, and you're leaving another impression there. Match your cover letter to your resume. If there's something that you feel needs an explanation, this is where the cover letter comes in handy. So if you want to further elaborate on something that's in your resume, you can add it into your cover letter. You can kind of, it's cover letters like kind of telling a little more of a story about you. It gives you that opportunity. Again, I don't always spend too much time on the cover letter unless I really, really find that I like a candidate. Then I'll take a little more time into the cover letter. One of the things that is really, really frustrating is when people make the cover letter just generic, you know, that they're just kind of sending it out to you know, 10, 20, 30 other places. And I get it. You probably are, and you should be, but it doesn't bode well for leaving a great impression if you're really looking to work somewhere in particular. You want to take the time to make sure that you customize it to the job or the company that you're applying for. And again, draw attention to your promotions or any achievements. You can add that into your resume there as well. So again, as students, if you go out any, you know, volunteer work, community, if you've done any placements, put that in there as well. That also adds to experience. And cut the fluff in your resume. There's no need to add every single responsibility. So let's say you worked prior to, maybe you're working and going to school, or maybe you are working in a clinic, maybe you're assisting or sterilization or something else. No need to elaborate and add all these buzzwords. You know, sometimes I'll see resumes where they've got a whole section on all the skills, you know, I'm organized and flexible and management skills and all this kind of stuff. Well, that's your opinion. I want to see that in your working experience, in the working experience will tell me whether you have those skills or not. Really, if you have a whole skills section saying how amazing you are, well, where's the proof of that? I want to see proof of that in the actual resume, in either the experience or the volunteer work or the placement. That's where you can elaborate a little bit, but no need to overdo it with all the responsibilities and everything that you've done. Just put kind of really what the major things are that are applicable. All right. So explanations for large gaps in your career. So again, this may not apply. It may apply to some of you guys. But if there are gaps in your career history, so if there's like a 5-year gap in between maybe working in school or between jobs or education or whatever that is, then put a brief explanation of what that is, whether it be a layoff or a break to have a child. Because if you don't, then it leads to the imagination. And people tend to go to the negative, like, well, why is there a gap here? And you're leaving it up to them to decide or write that story or make assumptions on your behalf. So I recommend just having a quick kind of brief explanation of why the gap. Nothing wrong with that. Insert action verbs wherever possible. So action would be obviously verbs, orchestrated, persuaded, conducted. Those would be the type of words and verbs that you want to use in your resume because they're very assertive, action-oriented, something that you've done. And again, save a copy of your resume as a PDF with the proper the proper name. Make sure, I recommend putting your first name, last name. It's not so obvious to some people, but you know, that's why I'm sharing that with you right now. As I mentioned before, make good use of the top third of your resume. This is, again, where you want your best skills, your experience, and your achievements. Again, right in the top middle, that's where people, that's your first impression right there. Very important. Use a proofreading tool and have a human proofread your resume. So of course, we've got proofreading tools all over the place. You've got your Word documents and it'll show the errors, but make sure that you have somebody else proofread your resume. And I recommend reading it out loud. Of course, when you read things out loud, they sound a little bit different. So do that a couple times, have somebody else also proofread your resume and have them give you constructive feedback as well. And then finally, write a thank you email, letter, or card. I always recommend that if you really want to work somewhere and you want to make a great impression, you've sent your resume, you know that they've read it, or perhaps you've had an interview, I always send a follow-up thank you email or a letter or a card thanking the actual hiring manager or a dentist. Because even if, let's say, you sent in your resume, and I get this sometimes too, where there's so many resumes that come in that some of them get lost in the shuffle. I've had times where students or candidates will email me directly and say, hey, just touching base to see if you got my resume and to see if there's anything else that that you might like to hear, or is there anything else that I can provide you? And that way it shows me that they really want the job. It shows me that they're being assertive. And they have leadership skills as well. So there's nothing wrong with doing that if you sent in a resume and you hadn't heard. There's no, if anything, it really is showing initiative. And sometimes if the hiring manager is looking at another resume and hiring somebody else, they may pause to actually look back at yours, call you in for an interview just because of that one thing. Sometimes that's the difference that makes a difference. So if you really want to work somewhere and you haven't heard back from them, send an email. And of course, after the interview, if you've gotten to that stage, sending another email, a thank you email, a letter, a card, always is helpful. And again, as I mentioned earlier, really no need to go past 2 pages. If you can fit it on one, great. 2 pages is okay. Getting past that, typically people aren't going to read it. They're going to look at the first one, they're going to kind of skim through the second, and then flip through the last. And then consider adding hobbies and interests to your resume, especially if you don't have a lot of professional experience. Then I would recommend also adding any hobbies, interests. Again, you don't want to make this too broad, but adding a few things that show maybe your athletic skills or interests that may create. I find that when you put in hobbies or interests, this is what creates rapport with people. So you'd be so surprised that, you know, sometimes when people put in their resumes that, for example, I don't know, they like salsa dancing or something. You know, if the hiring manager or somebody does salsa dancing, it instantly creates a rapport. and it gives them something to talk about. It breaks the ice, and then they elaborate on that. And you'll find that when you're meeting new people, if you can find a commonality, and this is really, really important, especially if you get to the interview as well, it's really important to build rapport with people, and you'll find that with patients as well, and your teams and the groups that you're working with. If you can the quicker that you can build rapport, the quicker that you build trust, and the quicker that people want to work with you and be collaborative with you. And finally, almost lastly, don't lie on your resume. No need to elaborate on things that that really aren't true, because it just, it doesn't bode well, and the truth always comes out. So no need to lie. If anything, just really, if there's something that you're lacking, no need to mention it. Just really focus on the skills that you do have, because that way you're not setting yourself up for failure. Because then expectations are up here for depending on what it is. And if you're unable to deliver, then you've created mistrust in them, right? You've lost trust there. And then lastly, clean up your online presence. I talked about this before, especially now, everybody's online. And if they're not, they're getting online. I'm seeing so many different offices getting online. I'm seeing so many different candidates. Everybody's getting online, because quite frankly, if we're not, then we're not being able to socialize. So it's really important to make sure that you clean up your online presence, even if you're not going to be putting in URLs or connections on your resume to your social media. I'll tell you right now that 9 times out of 10, the hiring manager, the dentist, the human resource, whoever it is that's doing the hiring, they're going to do a quick Google search on you and see what pops up. So I recommend that you do the same, right? So go into Google, type in your name, and see what pops up. And if there's anything in there that doesn't look professional, especially when it's time to get a job, then you might want to clean that up. If you've got some, images on there that maybe aren't as desirable for a professional position, especially in healthcare, then you might want to change it. So I know that you guys can't necessarily see this, and you don't need to see the fine detail, but if you look at these resumes, these are good examples of a balanced resume. You'll see that there's a good amount of white space. Everything's very orderly. Everything's, on the right-hand side, you'll see John Smith, registered dental hygienist. And you'll find that for me, I automatically look right in the middle. I saw John Smith's name first. I saw registered dental hygienist. And then I see the qualifications right there. That's exactly where I look. And this is a good example of what it might look like. Again, no need to get into all the details there, but you'll see that John Smith, he's got his information bolded. He's got his contact information. I see that he's a registered dental hygienist. I've got his skills and qualifications, and then dental experience. Again, if you have dental experience, put that first, and then your education. Typically, like if I'm looking at resumes of dental professionals who have worked and who aren't in school, they're not students, then I don't necessarily, education I look at last. I actually look at the experience. Or if I'm looking at dentists or hiring, oral surgeons or whatever, I want to know where have they worked? That is so key and so important. So if you have that available, put that first, then your education. If not, students, put your education first, and then maybe some highlights right in the top center, where I mentioned that's your smile, that's your business card, that's your kind of your time to shine there. All right, so we're gonna get into the social media kind of do's and don'ts here. And I know we've got probably about 15 more minutes or so, but the LinkedIn profile, I'm gonna talk a little bit about LinkedIn for a number of reasons. Number one, some of you may or may not be on it. I know a lot of students aren't necessarily on LinkedIn, but I'm going to give you a couple of reasons why you might want to consider being on LinkedIn. A lot of hiring managers, a lot of dental offices, a lot of professionals are on LinkedIn. So you want to be where the people are. You want to get noticed. You want to be found. And if you don't have an online presence, you might want to start here, especially if you're going to start looking for a job. This is a great way to show a professional online presence on LinkedIn. And I'll also tell you that right now, the algorithms of Google, they favor LinkedIn. So for example, if you were to type in me or Enspire Dental, you'll probably see LinkedIn come up almost immediately. So if you have traction, you've got a great profile, you've got connections on LinkedIn, you're going to be searchable. And when people search your name, when they are looking over your resume, if you've kind of passed that resume resume test there, if they're interested in you, they're gonna look on social media. So if you've got a great clean profile on LinkedIn, then that's going to bode very well for you professionally as well. And not only that, but if you start creating an online professional presence, and just start posting things that are professional, that are about you. I kind of talk about the 80-20 rule. If you talk 80% about things, brand yourself, what's important to you. So for me, for example, I've got, my family, my health, my business. So those are kind of three things that I typically brand, and I'm consistent with that. And I like to portray myself in a very professional, but, personable way. You wanna show the humanistic side of you. So it's okay. You don't have to be all professional. You want to show kind of the positive, humanistic, empathetic, fun-loving side of you as well. That's important as well. So be consistent if you're going to be on LinkedIn or whatever social media platform that you have. I recommend, again, having a LinkedIn profile, just something on there, and be consistent, whether you're posting once a week, twice a week, or once every couple of weeks, whatever you choose to do it consistently. Consistency builds trust. Okay, so having something there. So with LinkedIn, a couple things that you might want to consider. Put the time in it to make it awesome. So how complete is your profile? Again, if you're new to it, it can seem a little overwhelming, although I'm going to assume that most of you guys are pretty savvy with social media. So take a little bit of time, look at some other profiles of maybe some other experienced dental hygienists, and then just kind of be a copycat. There's no need to be, you don't have to be the, person that creates something. Be a DJ, I like to say. So you can kind of take other people's things, incorporate it into something that's going to fit or match you. You don't have to be somebody who, has to come up with everything. Go look at other people's profiles and pull what you like and leave what you don't like, and go from there. Get a custom URL. So you can actually create a custom URL, and I'll give you details on how you can do that when I send the PDF. So that if you create a URL on LinkedIn, it'll automatically make one for you, and it has all these kind of, funny numbers and letters. You can create one where it's just linkedin.com/your name. Makes it very clear, very concise, very professional. Photo. So important here. Really, really important to have a photo that conveys passion, energy, charisma, and empathy. Now that seems like a lot in a photo, but if you can have a photo with a bright smile, and make sure that it's professional. I cannot tell you how important it is not to have your cat up there, or not to have, something. I see parents where they put their kids at. Put a photo of you that's professional and conveys your best side. Allow it to be and show the best side of you. All right, write an awesome headline. Think about when you're watching YouTube videos or, Googling something, you always go to somewhere that has a really good, catchy headline. This is where you can showcase your value proposition as well. Leverage your job description. So in LinkedIn, you can really leverage that space. It positions you for hiring managers or recruiters that are looking for somebody like you. So use that area to, so what I would do is go in other job descriptions, and the job descriptions that you're looking for, the job that you're looking for, take that, reword it, and take those key elements and put them in your job description of what you're looking for, or the proposition or the value added proposition that you're giving to people. So look at for what the job that you're looking for, take those keywords and rewrite it in a paragraph that showcases you, if that makes sense. Summary space on LinkedIn, 3 to 5 paragraphs with your passions, your key skills, your unique qualifications, and maybe some industries that you've been exposed to over the years. Again, no need to get into too much detail. If this overwhelms you, don't let it. Just great picture, contact details, couple contacts. That way people can kind of see that you're professional. If you want to keep it basic, that's totally fine. Totally fine. And again, be warm and welcoming in your summary section. So when creating a LinkedIn profile, treat your profile like a resume. Both of them are places to highlight your best accomplishments. So key highlights, accomplishments, education, experience, you can put that all in there. Again, if it's too overwhelming, just have a picture in there, your contact details, and a great summary. You can use first person on LinkedIn, but not on your resume. So you can, I have achieved this and this in my career. You can say in the first person on LinkedIn, but not on your resume. Add multimedia. So on your summary in LinkedIn, you can show examples of your work experience, your blogs, your volunteer, any accomplishments, pictures and video. People love pictures and video. Think of when you're online, what attracts you most? Well, that's exactly what's going to attract people that are looking for hygienists or looking for your particular experience. Showcase who you are. Put pictures and video, if you have them, on your LinkedIn profile. Add work experience, projects, volunteer experience, and of course, languages. And then again, if this is overwhelming, then don't get too overwhelmed by it. And I know you guys have a lot going on, but request LinkedIn recommendations. If you have people that you have worked with in the past, request a recommendation from them. That will bump you up higher in your exposure on LinkedIn as well. And then social media and LinkedIn and the internet, there's so much information out there, and there's so many opportunities to join groups and be connected with other professionals. So I always recommend joining groups relevant to your profession. This is going to help you to stay relevant, stay connected, be with people who are like-minded in your profession, because you never know what's going to happen down the road. Everybody here, you're going to be graduating soon, you're going to be hygienists, but this is an amazing platform that you have into the dental profession. So you may not want to continue being a hygienist after 5, 10, 15, 20 years. You may find that it may get hard on your body. You may want to have something different. Well, you have all these incredible experiences and you have all these opportunities in the dental space. So stay connected with people, create connections, create networks with people, because really your network, sometimes saying that says your network is your net worth. Stay connected with people because you never know where you're going to be or what you want to do down the road. On LinkedIn, have at least 50 connections. Again, you don't have to worry about all your likes and followers and all this kind of stuff, but at least have at least 50 to 100 connections on LinkedIn to show the recruiters that you're social, that you have some friends, that you're social, and that you're active in the community there. It just adds a little bit of I guess, professionalism. Make sure that people can find you. So be sure to add your email address to the contact information. A lot of people forget this, and this is how they're going to get a hold of you. So make sure that you do add your professional email address. So that's pretty much it when it comes to LinkedIn. And I'm going to again in the Q&A, if you guys want me to kind of go over my LinkedIn, I can go and share the screen on that as well. I'll wait to see, just because of timing. I'm not going to do that unless requested. But I'm going to finish off with professional communication. And I've said this a little bit in our talk, but people do business with, they build relationships with, and they hire people that they know, they like, they trust, and who can communicate well. So I want you to take this with you in life and in your careers in life, is that people really do business with and build relationships with people they know, like, and trust. And if you can communicate with people, whether that be through a resume, whether that be through written word, whether that be through verbally, whether that be through social media, remember that communication is the multiplier of all skill. So you could have the best skills in the world, but if you're unable to communicate them, then they stay with you. So it's really important to make sure that you communicate your best self, and position yourself in a way that people can see who you are. They can see, what your skills are. Make sure that you are communicating with people. So important. Again, whether that be written, verbally, social media. Communication really is the multiplier of all skill. And lastly, guys, I do want to hear from you. If you have resumes, or if you're creating a resume, send it over to me. Send it over. There's my email, melissa@enspireopportunities.com. I am more than happy to read it over. I'll do more than just skim it. I'll look at it for longer than 6 seconds, and I'll give you feedback if you want. And of course, if you want to join our network and have us help you find something, we're more than happy to do that. But even if not, even if you you have a particular place where you want to work and you've got that lined up, but you still want a resume, we're happy to help. Either myself or one of my team members will personally review your resume and give you constructive feedback on it as well. Here's my contact information. Of course, our website, if you want to join our network, email, phone number. We're on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. Not TikTok yet. I haven't wrapped my head around that one, but we're on all social media platforms. We'd love to hear from you. Again, whether we're going to end up helping you find something or not. If you have questions regarding your resume, regarding interview, where to start, we're honestly happy to help. It would be my absolute pleasure to do so. I want to see all of you guys succeed. You have the whole world ahead of you, and so much opportunity for growth and learning. And it's just really fun for me to be a little minor part of it. So thanks everybody.